Hey everyone, so today we're going to learn how to turn our pixel portraits into animated GIFs. So here I have a big square frame that I've just created a big old dumb smiley face in, and I have that in 3 different layers here. Each part of the face is a different layer, so this is just kind of emulating what you've already created with your 3 portraits, right? So you have at least 3 layers, maybe more, but at least 3. And each one is a portrait of you in a frame of animation of doing whatever action you're performing, right? So from here we need to try and translate this into our actual frames and into the animated GIF. The first thing we're going to do is come up to Window and go down to Timeline. So the Timeline window is going to pop up down here at the bottom. And you're going to have, it's going to look exactly like this, really nothing going on except for this one button right here that says Create Video Timeline. We don't want to create a video timeline. We want to click on the arrow and create frame animation. So once we click on that, we're going to click the actual button itself now, and then it will bring up a a single frame, and the single frame is whatever we have visible here on our layers palette. Now, the way the animation works is that in each frame, you then tell Photoshop which layers you want to be visible. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to create 3 frames, and in the first frame, we're going to turn everything off except for the eyeball. Okay? You can see that it's now changed that frame. It's also changed these, but the really important one is the one we're selected on. So that we want the eyeball visible first. We're going to click on the second frame here, and now we're going to go back over to our layers, and we're going to highlight the second eyeball as well, and now you can see both of them are visible. Okay? And you can see that it's changed now the second frame that we were in, that we're highlighted on, but not the first frame. So first frame will be left eyeball, second frame will be left and right, and then we click the third frame here, and we're going to come over, we're going to turn the second eyeball on and the mouth. Now you can see down here our actual 3 frames are all stacked up together. I can see how it plays out at the moment just by pressing the play button here. And you can see obviously it's very fast. The reason it's fast is because of what's called frame delay. So the frame delay is this number right here underneath each frame. And this references how long that frame stays visible before it moves to the next frame. So 0 seconds is going to be way too fast, obviously. I would recommend starting at 0.1 seconds and then going from there to see if that works or if you want to slow down. So if I want to, for instance, stop it, have the second eyeball show up pretty quickly, and then the mouth show up pretty quickly, but then stay in frame for a good long time. Maybe I'll change this last frame to 1 second. And so what that'll do is it'll have the eyeball and the mouth show up, and then the mouth will show up quickly, but it won't change back to the first frame for a full second. So it gives us a little bit of time to kind of take in the entire image. So this frame delay is very important. You may realize that you need a frame in the middle of your animation to stay for a little bit longer, or you need the last one to stay, or maybe even the first one. But you want to utilize your frame delay very specifically to create the flow of the image that you actually want it to have. Okay? Alright, now let's look at, that's essentially the whole actual animating process. It's very simple. All it requires is your frames and your frame delay. That's it. This should be set to forever. This is the looping options. So you can have it loop once, you can have it loop 3 times, you can have it loop forever. Set it to forever. It should be standard default to forever, and you definitely want that for an animated GIF. Let's look at one of these older, this is a student work. This is one that I showed in the other tutorial, and you can see how she built this. So she has a background layer that stays the same in every frame, and then she has 4 different images of herself, and each of those images is present in one of the 4 frames. And then her frame delay is set to 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and then her last frame is 0.5, which gives us a little bit of time to kind of take in that last frame before it restarts to the beginning. And then we can see how that plays. So it gives us a little bit of a break there at the end, which a lot of times is very nice to have. Okay? And that's it. Now, once you have your animation, you're going to need to export it. And it's going to be a little bit different than what we've been doing with just saving our project, right? Because normally we go to File, we go to Save As, and then we save it. This is going to be a little different. So instead of going to Save As, we're going to go right down below there to Export. And when we export, we're going to go to Save for Web right here. And what that's going to do, it's going to bring up a window here, and it's going to show us this is our original, this is the one we're going to save, and we want to change a couple of things. So yours is probably going to be very small. It's going to be, I think, 50 by 50 pixels. So very small. And we want to make sure of a couple of things. We want to make sure that it's set to GIF right here. So if it's not, if it's set to anything else by default, make sure that it sets to GIF. All of this other stuff should be okay. I don't think we'll have to change any of that. But we are going to change the size right here to 500 or more. I would recommend 500, but if you want to make it a little bit larger, that's fine. And then we're definitely going to need to change the quality. So if you leave it at bicubic, what's going to happen is it's going to make your animated GIF larger than the 50 by 50 pixels, but it's going to blur it significantly. I'm not going to explain why it does that, but basically we obviously don't want that. When we blow it up, we want it to have those crisp, very hard edge lines of the pixels, because that's obviously the whole point of drawing these pixel portraits. So we're going to change it to nearest neighbor. Nearest neighbor will allow us to keep the hard edge lines of the squares, of the pixels, and have the quality stay the same. We're going to make sure that looping option says forever, and that's all we want. We want 500 in each of these boxes here, and then we want to change nearest neighbor, make sure that it says forever, and then we're going to go to save. Once we click save, it should ask us where we want to save it to. I'm going to save it to the desktop here. Click save. It should drop to the desktop. Now, the way to check and see if it's working the way you want to is not to double click. If you double click on this, it will open up in probably like Preview or some other application, and it will only show you essentially one photo of the first layer of the animation of the GIF. So instead, you want to click on it to select it, and then press spacebar on the keyboard. When you press space, it'll open up in like a preview mode on the Macintosh computers, and you can see that it will show us the full animation itself. So you want to double check this, make sure it looks how you want it to. If it's too fast, you can go back and change your frame delay. If it's too slow, you can do the same thing. If it doesn't animate, you know that maybe you saved it incorrectly, so go back and take a look at how I mentioned to save it. Make sure that you have it set to animated GIF and all that kind of stuff. And that should be it. So pretty simple overall to make sure we save it like that. And then you're also going to want to continue to save it as a PSD. So at the very end, you'll have the PSD file. You'll keep that for yourself. I will not need the PSD file. You'll just be turning in the animated GIF to me. But what saving the PSD file will allow you to do is come back at any point in the future and modify it, change it, do anything you want to with it, really. So that's all for turning it into an animated GIF. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.